they were freed with by British with a condition that good sailors, a Turkish Ottoman Levant, we call Levant, would bring some of the British to the American ports, and at that time they would be freed. I think you are saying a beautiful thing, that Jamestown issue is 1607, and Jamestown started much earlier than that, of course. And Jamestown was one of the towns the Turkish sailors were brought, and they don't speak English, and they don't practice any belief, religions, and anything. They are really left over there. In return, they brought those ships back safely. This British base didn't have much ladies, and of course, free Turkish soldiers, sailors, Levants, they couldn't speak Turkish, they couldn't practice their religion, they couldn't marry anybody, they couldn't establish business, nothing. It was very odd and outcasted people. They felt so sorry for themselves, and they said, God probably condemned us or cursed us that we are here without being away from Turkey or Ottoman land, and we are alone here, and we have no chance to go back. We have no chance to speak our language again, except each other's. And therefore they call themselves Melungeons, meaning cursed soul. We must be cursed by the God that we were sent here. Of course, at that time, we lost the battle in Abatte, Lepanto, and they came here alone, suffering. But we never realized that 400 years later, they would be our ultimate brothers and sisters, still keeping up the same tradition and finding and discovering more and more their roots. At this point, I'm going to inject something pretty interesting. Their displeasure to live in British colony forced them or encouraged them to go to mountains, especially the Appalachian mountains. They tried to hunt there, they tried to find their own way to live. And in the mountains, they start to see some Native American people. They start to have contact with them. Interesting things, especially with Cherokees. They start to have some linguistic similarities. As you know, the Cherokee and many others, almost 80% of American Indians speaks Athabaskan language. Athabaskan is a kind of language group, has various dialects, but it's a kind of language group is very close to Turkish, and we sincerely believe this migration started from very early age, and it went on until 1233 AD. Remind you, 1233 AD. This is the connection that you may not know, and I will be very glad to explain this to you. Yes, you know, you people were brought here by Spanish and Portuguese sailors as prisoners, but later on you were freed by the British. Then you went to the mountains. Then you discovered some people called Cherokees, Lombe Indians, many Indian groups that has Athabaskan language. And there is a lady, anthropologist, who wrote a book about this issue and worked on it 40 years. Her name is Ethel G. Stewart. She happened to be a Canadian anthropologist, and in her theory, she went to Turkey many times. Even Turkish Language Institute was one of her main source. She found from early settlers churches and archives, and from Turkish Language Institute the linguistic similarities. And in 400 years, she wrote this book called Dene Nadene, the Indian Migration 1233 AD, Escape from Genghis Khan to America. We all believe that the American Indians had the Central Asian and Siberian connection, blood, but anthropologists, they made us believe that there was a land bridge, and they were passing the land bridge and coming here 9,000 years ago. Of course, this story may be true, but they didn't realize until this book, and this migration went on all the time, especially in case of danger, in case of trouble. When Genghis Khan was a very, very powerful, the Uyghur Turks from west part of China were the group they knew how to pass Aleutian Islands instead of going to the Bering. As you know, Bering is still further up, Bering Channel. They escaped from Aleutian Islands from one to other and came to this continent, and they knew the roads, they knew the way, and they started to establish their own happy life without much enemy. Now, my theory, or my personal belief, the only reason that Melungeon, the Ottoman Levant, and shall we call the prisoners, they could find a kind of kinship with Cherokee, Lumbee, many other Indian groups because of the Athabaskan language. This is very important. Remind you, today I can understand Uyghur people pretty well, but if there is a sentence, maybe I can catch one or two words, and it's not complete understanding. However, we didn't see Uyghur people, which means Central Asian Turks, almost lost 1,000 years. But think about the dates. Your arrival, your Melungeon starting, in my judgment, and Brandt sincerely believed, as a matter of fact, he started the whole thing. I think someday I may build a big sculpture for his honor, because he is so special to me. He is not only as my dear brother, but his service to this community cannot be compared with practically anybody that I know. This theory, 1571, 1233. As you know, the gap 300-400 years. In 300-400 years, language probably changed much less than 1,000 years. Therefore, my sincere hope, my sincere belief, certain time, this Cherokee connection, Lumbee connection, then many other Native American connection with Athabaskan continued until they also got exposed to English, and they start to learn English, and they forgot their language. But some Cherokees still speak their own Athabaskan, and I can find hundreds of words in their language groups. Brandt and I was preaching this, looking at the archives, and he wrote beautiful books, especially the last one was very interesting, From Anatolia to Appalachia. I hope you all have that book that you recognize. Brandt went to